Yo, 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 good people of YouTube, this is your buddy Choppadong. We are going to do a combined video today, and what I want to do is I want to show you how quickly you can bust up a couple of slates. I'm going to show you some NBA stuff first. We're going to run over to Draftkings today and do NHL. Had a lot of requests inside our VIP Slack chats at dfsarmy.com about Draftkings because we've been a little Fanduel centric. So what we'll do is we'll jump over there and talk hockey when we slide over to that. I played a lot over there last year. It's just fine. As far as the site's a little bit different, scoring's a little bit different, a little bit of different things to look for. So let's do that today as our main portion of the video. But really quickly, let's run down the NBA slate for, I guess, Fanduel. One of the spots that I look for before DFS Army puts out all of its stuff, when I'm just trying to get a feel for the slate, if you know anything about me, I put my stuff out relatively early, or try to, and I just don't have a lot of data compiled. There are a couple of places I do go to Roto Grinders a lot and use their free material, so free plug for them. I've talked to Noto on occasion. He doesn't mind me using some of his stuff. This is a members only, which means give them your email, give them your, I guess, set up a password where it's still free information. So that's the beautiful part about it, and this is a heavy resource for me early in the day when it comes to NBA. I like to look at just a few things, and this is really all it's for. I'm not looking at players, I'm not looking at value, I'm just looking for target spots. I wish that I could find where I used to look for guys who are on back-to-backs, 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 type days, and predict some of the rest. But I haven't done a lot of NBA since our guys over in DFS Army have it on such lockdown. I've been using them to do a lot of my work. But if we were going to dig in today, just because I know some of you guys like NBA quite a bit, we're going to look for higher implied team totals. And we're going to look, I don't even necessarily look at this, although I think it's a really cool graphic. I look for things like implied total, points per game. If you saw my video earlier in the week, you're going to notice that I'm going to focus on who's pointed up and who's paced up. And that's pretty much what we're going to be focusing on for offenses to target tonight. It's a very, very rudimentary, very, very basic way to get a feel for the slate. But in my opinion, we're trying to use Vegas and use their resources to help us see kind of an overview, helicopter view of the slate and where we want to be looking first. And we may not end up here, but this is where we're going to be looking first. When looks like San Antonio's pointed up, and the reason why I focus on these guys that are pointed up, Mavericks are pointed up, Charlotte's pointed up, Portland is pointed up. What does that mean? It means their implied total tonight is above their average points per game on the season. That means they're in a good offensive spot. Now, why do I focus on that number? Very, very simple. Because the salaries are issued for these players based on what they typically do and how much you guys use them in your lineups. There's an algorithm that factors in matchup, all sorts of stuff to determine that price, but a large portion of it is based around their average play. If they score 100 points a game, but tonight they're going to score 110, guess what? There's more opportunity to score points, which means a lot of these guys should outperform their average expectations by a little bit, which means they should outperform their current price by a little bit, which means they have value. That's the name of the game in DFS, is finding value. This is one of the best ways to spot it early. Sometimes we follow through on our research and we find that it confirms what we think, sometimes not. But this is how we start. So I'm looking at these 4 offenses first. I'm going to include these offenses if they are not the same. San Antonio's in there again, of course. Detroit and Charlotte Hornets are all paced up. That's the same thing. That means they're going to play faster. They're going to play a little bit faster than usual, which means they've got more opportunities to score, which means they're going to possibly be bringing you value because they're going to outperform their normal expectations. Conversely, if I want to double-click it and find out who's pointed down, I'm probably not going to play a lot of Minnesota, Phoenix, or the New York Knicks tonight. If I look at who's paced down and playing a team that's going to tend to slow them down, Washington, Phoenix, New York, and the Nuggets, and the Bulls. These are teams that I would tend to stay a little bit away from. When I write these things down and I start targeting offenses, these are ones that I put stars on the guys that are paced up, and I put little crosses through the guys that are paced down. And I do that, again, to cut the playing field down. This is a lot of information to process on a daily basis. God forbid I jump down here into the matchup sheets and start telling you that the Spurs also have a great point guard matchup. So do the Jazz. They're pointed up and paced up. So they're in good spots for point guard. Their shooting guard, same thing. The Spurs are there. Who did we just miss? See, I've already forgotten. The Jazz. Where are the Jazz on this list? See, they're going to face a little tougher shooting guard matchup, so I might not be wanting to use that as a tiebreaker for shooting guards with the Utah Jazz. Small forward, power forward, center, all the same thing. I might be looking at Charlotte Hornets, Portland, and Detroit for a place to start. That's just me. This is just a quick way to bust this thing down. Another way to go through this is to look at the usage numbers. When I'm looking at the usage numbers, Kyrie gets used a ton. If Kyrie's opponent is the Minnesota Timberwolves, then I fly back up here and want to find out who's pointed up and who's paced up, and are they facing Minnesota? Boston, pointed up a little bit, facing Minnesota tonight. They're the favorites in this game. The game doesn't have a huge over-under, and they're only pointed up a little bit, but they're actually paced down a little bit. So really and truly, Kyrie's in a little bit of a neutral matchup. He still gets used a lot, but his price is not indicating a big value spot as of today. It doesn't mean that he won't exceed. Doesn't mean he's not in a great spot. That's for you to do deeper research and figure out. I'm telling you, when we're just scratching the surface, this is how we start targeting guys that we want to start researching. When I look at Dennis Schroeder, his opponent is Portland Trail Blazers. So the things we're going to check on, if I don't scroll up too high, is where in line does Portland fall? Atlanta's pointed down and paced down. No thanks. I'm probably not going to be too interested in Schroeder, even though he gets used a ton. Because when he's pointed down and paced down, he should not, most times, perform up to expectations, which means if his price is based on expectations, he's going to be priced a little too high tonight. Now, I may use him to fill it out or as a GPP pick later on if I've got money to burn or something along those lines. Something along those lines. Sorry about the phone ringing there, but something along those lines, that's just the way that's going to go. But as of right now, he's not where I'm starting. Okay? So you need to do this through all of the different positions. Check the usage of these shooting guards, DeRozan, Booker, Beal. We find guys that are in pretty good spots, DVP-wise as well. That's what we're looking for. Find me a guy with high usage in an okay DVP spot, and that's just another way to do things. There. LaMarcus Aldridge, we already know the Spurs are in a good spot. Phoenix, we know we don't want to target a lot of Phoenix guys. So when I go down here and I look at the Spurs who are pointed up and paced up, LaMarcus Aldridge, if I scroll back down here, is being used and he's in a good DVP spot. LaMarcus Aldridge might find his way into quite a few. Now, if I look at fantasy points per game, there's another little graphic. Last 4, he's up 3.5 points on. So his price probably has not caught up to him yet. This might be a very attractive price for him across the industry tonight. Okay, these are just places to start, and this is how you use these graphics. It's one of the things that I do. So there's a quick look and a very shallow look at the NBA slate for you, but these are some of the ways to get your research directed in the right way. If you take a little break here just to tell you to follow me out on Twitter at Chapadong. You can find me in the DFS Army. I'm a coach and contributor in there. I'm starting a new DFS NHL series for players looking to expand their game. All right, part 1 of 5 is out. It's my pinned tweet. Go take a look at it. It's got a video accompanying it as well, and that's just how we seem to be combining information these days. So it, I think, is going to help the beginning player, somebody who's played NBA, played in NFL, is looking for something to do, because first of all, NFL is ending. Second of all, NBA and NHL alternate slates on their full slates quite a bit, where the NBA last night was only 2 games, and that's not a lot of fun for a lot of people, so they jumped over to NHL inside DFS Army. We said, hey, come try your NHL out. Let's give it a shot. A bunch of guys were like, oh, hell, I'm bored. I got a couple of bucks to burn. Why the hell not? And they were like, well, what do you do? How do you do it? Okay, so it became painfully obvious that we need a series of basic information to get guys that don't know hockey up to speed quickly so that they can play all of the sports. So that's the role that I'm going to fill for you over the next couple of weeks, is we're going to bust out this little 5-part series, and we're going to get you all brought up to speed if you want to learn how to play in NHL. There's not a lot of content out there on Google and out on the web, so what we're going to do is we're going to really slam dunk this sucker, and we're going to make you want to be a VIP, where I coach and contribute on a regular basis inside our Slack forums. DFSarmy.com. Use code CHOP, CHOP, for a 10% discount. And find your way into the VIP forums where we have tools, spreadsheets, optimizers, not for NHL, but for all of the other sports. And we are winning big amounts of money in NBA and NFL. We just had a $250,000 winner in NFL, and we've got $10,000 and $50,000 winners multiple times already for this NBA season. So jump in, play some hockey with me. Let's go win some big money, and let's go compete with those turkeys over there and show them we know what's up to. Anyway. We've got an article on from DFS Army on the NHL already. Flynn's doing a great job breaking these things down for us. We've got picks inside the Slack forums, and of course, Mitch is at Freebie Friday. DFS and Donuts. If you don't follow him out on Twitter, you need to actually follow both of these guys to get the latest content that they bust out. But this is a free article that's usually VIP material for NBA. So DFS Army is always popping material. It's best community on the internet, hands down, for any of the sites that you play. Let's jump over to hockey, and let's try and really cruise through and maybe build a sample lineup. A lot of people wanting to focus on Draftkings, so that's where we're going to focus today. I switched everything over to Draftkings while I'm waiting for our own data to compile and come out inside DFS Army. Should be dropping here fairly soon. This is where we're gonna get our information for right now. So once again, thanks to Roto Grinders for the free material. A lot of us do use that and utilize that on a daily basis. I like looking for, if you saw my other video or you saw the NHL series, the opening series to, or the opening video or article to the series, then what you noticed is I tend to look for big favorites. 121, 113, not really getting it done. 111, minus 285. That's a big number. 120, I'm going to be right here with my goalie. I play a lot of cash games. I don't screw around. In NHL, your goalie is going to be the foundation of your team, like a starting pitcher in baseball. Okay? There's, generally speaking, you need to hit that win, because the win is a huge chunk of your fantasy scoring for the day. Nail that win, and you get a nice leg up on everybody. That requires you to pay up for these goalies, which is fine, especially in cash. It's fine. Don't get cute and try and take some young punk guy, or something that's a little bit unreliable or whatever. You're just going to wind up burning yourself. Stick with what you know. Stick with the short thing. Get the foundation locked up right away. The next thing that we're going to typically do is we're going to go digging through and looking for lines. What offenses do we want to see? Okay, well, first of all, Winnipeg's a huge favorite. I know Buffalo stinks on the road, and they're coming off of a back-to-back road game they played last night. That's why this number is so big. So we're going to probably target these Sabres. We're not going to play any of them. We're probably going to target a lot of Jets in our lineup today, just so you know. And we'll look at how to determine whether or not they're running hot or not. But the Jets are going to be offense number one. If I look at the implied totals, 2.7, 2.7, it's okay. Sharks and the Senators are a little bit 50-50. Vegas played in St. Louis last night, and so did actually San Jose played last night too. And they're both still on the road. So we might look towards Chicago a little bit. That's why you're seeing this favorite here. And you're seeing not quite as high. I like to see this implied number over a 3. For offenses I want to target, but on a 5-game slate, we're going to have to take what we can take. 2.85 so far is fairly high. 3.5, of course, is a great spot. 2.85 for Detroit, 3.06 for the New York Islanders, and 3 for the Penguins. So Penguins played last night, Islanders played last night. So these guys are both kind of, I guess, equally as tired. Florida, Detroit. Detroit did not play last night. So if I'm looking for offenses, we're going to bounce around and look for a little bit of value. So for me to find the value, one of the things that I like to do is go into the player's stats. And I like starting to pick on my offenses from that way. I would go through these filters. I would cut out the offenses I don't want. Like, I don't mind these. Don't mind these. Let's go ahead and kill that game off. I don't want Buffalo. I don't know if I want Vegas or not. Let's go ahead and take them out tonight just for shits and giggles. Just to cut the player pool down a little bit. Okay, now I may, in my deeper research, go back and put these guys back in. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's take out these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams is okay. So now that I've got it cut down to 5 teams, I'm going to have to do it again because I didn't sort this out for the hot teams by 4 weeks. That's what I like to do. So as this loads up again, we're going to have to start the filters all over again. And we're going to have to cut this game out. We'll put Detroit back in. We'll cut this game out. We'll cut Buffalo out. We'll cut Vegas out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to sort by salary. And we've got our 4-week number, per game number. We're going to look for fantasy points, who's running hot, who's running cold. On Draftkings, the scoring numbers are way different, where you might want 20 on Fanduel. 5 or 6 is fine when it comes to DraftKings. So when I scroll down, I'm going to start looking for value plays. This is called bottom-up lineup building. Let's open all of these guys up. Let's hope it doesn't reset all of my stuff. It probably reset my salaries. Doesn't look like it did. Good. Now, when I scroll down here, I'm going to start looking for guys, well, 2.5, 9 games, Hinostroza in Chicago. Hey, maybe not too bad. I might compare him with the starting lineups here a little bit. One way I can look at his game logs here, clicking on game log, 12 minutes, third, fourth liner. That's need to shift that over to DraftKings. You're looking at 3.5, 5 points. That's very usable. Okay, so if I want to find out, I'm going to try and stick on Chicago players. I want guys on the power play 1, power play 2, and the frontline guys. But if I'm looking for value, if Hinostroza is not hurt, there, he's not even eligible for whatever reason. That sort of blows. So I'm going to scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Find me another guy running over, say, about a 3, 2.7. Wingles in Chicago. Where's Wingles? Fourth line center. Not getting enough minutes, not serving any power play time. Probably not, unless I get really desperate and need a big punt. Here's my first 3. Brock Nelson. Nope, sorry. Trevor Daley, Detroit defenseman. So let's jump in here, up to Detroit. Find Daley. No power play time as of right now. Need to shift that over to DraftKings, pick his game log, go running through here. Not great lately. Had a good stretch back here. That's what those numbers are reflecting. It's cooled back off. Probably not on him. Let's see. Osterley in Chicago. Another way that we can do this, let's shift over to a different way to do this. If I want to find Osterley, I type his name in there. I click on his name. And here's the thing that I like to do. I do this on scratch paper. I'm going to go to his 10-game log. Okay? There's 10-game numbers on the at-a-glance slate, but I look at his fantasy points. Fantasy points are up there nicely. I want to see his activity because the difference between Fanduel, one of the big differences between Fanduel and DraftKings, DraftKings is going to reward a little bit of activity, so my punts can do a little bit better there. Much like football, half-point PPR versus full-point PPR. You'll take a Golden Tater, you'll take a Jarvis Landry, and give them a little bit more weight over on DraftKings where they get that full point for that PPR. You don't quite need them to score points directly through touchdowns like you would on DraftKings or like you would on FanDuel. Same thing for hockey. I get a little bit of activity boost, not necessarily production boost. FanDuel is more just, you either did or you didn't. Did you score a goal? Did you get an assist? I don't give much of a crap about anything else. So I can use this activity and it helps my punts, which also helps with that utility spot on DraftKings. So I'm going to take their last 10 games and I'm going to add those blocked shots with shots on goal. And what is that going to get me? 45? 45 is not bad. 45 over 10 games is 4.5. I get half a point for each. So it's about 2.5 points as a floor just to start with. Just to start because of his basic activity, let alone he's scoring any points. He's getting me, 0.6 points a game. So if I add a couple of points on that, that's why he's been getting me 3s and 4s. That's why his number's up there, that 3 and 4. So if I wanted to, I could start with Osterley and see where he's going to slot in there with Chicago. Power play unit 2. Okay, so if I like him as value, now I want to correlate this. I've got the scoring line, the defensive pair, the first defensive pair, the second unit. If I want to use him, I'd look for these PP2 guys. Say Saad, Taves, Hartman, something along those lines. So let's look at their game logs. Click them over to DraftKings. Game log it. 5, 2, 4.5, 4.5. Okay, that's a good sign. Very good sign for Hartman. So I could start my stack, and Hartman isn't going to be super expensive either. So Osterley and Hartman, let's start with them. Let's get out of here. Let's clear the lineup out. Told you we were going to start with Hellebuck. So we'll slot him in first. Now we'll run to Chicago. Kick those Knights out of there. Winnipeg, Detroit, Florida, New York, Pittsburgh. Okay, we'll kick these offenses in, but we'll come back down to Osterley, right? Slot him in at D. And now we'll go to Hartman, and we'll stack them. Now, if you notice what I'm doing, I'm starting to correlate these points. That's something we'll get into in the video series, but correlating points is very, very important. That's why we're running these guys on these lines. I've got access to the first line, so if I wanted to run Sod and double-check him, I might have a full game stack or a full line or complete team stack. 4, 6, whatever. Okay, ran good the last couple of games. Why not, huh? Hockey's has a volatile sport. So if I throw Sod in there, now what I've got is Sod, Hartman, and Osterley, and it forms the foundation of this team. Sod, power play 2, has been bringing value the last couple of games. Hartman is on a different scoring line, so I don't care which one of these lines does the scoring tonight. I hope it happens on the power play in the second units out there, because Hartman might pass over to Sod, who puts it in the basket, or Osterley might feed him. But I've got access to a two-way stack here. I've got Osterley on the first defensive pairing with Sod, and I've got him on the power play 2 with Hartman, and Sod and Hartman are also connected. So really and truly, when the power play 2 is out there, I got all 3 of my guys on the ice. But most of the time tonight, I'm going to have one of these 2 guys along with Osterley out there on the ice. That's where I'm going to be doing my scoring. And it's a very cash-safe way to do it, because I didn't just totally go all my eggs in one basket with this top line or the second line. I took one here and one here, but they do overlap in case they do correlate and pass to each other on a power play. That is a cash way to build a DFS lineup. Now, if I look over here, I know I wanted Winnipeg, so we've got some money probably to burn. Let's find out which Winnipeg guys are doing the damage. Let's cut this one all the way out. Let's only look at the Winnipeg guys, and let's just sort it straight up by fantasy points per game. Wheeler's where I'm starting. Does he correlate with Ehlers? Wheeler on the 1, Ehlers on the 2. No, that kind of hurts. Laine's not a bad spot. Connor's not in a bad spot. So Laine and Ehlers or Wheeler, boom, boom. And then Connor down. Where'd Connor go? Connor's on the front there, just the whole front line. If I can fit it, I'm going to want to see. Let's go ahead and kick those guys off, kick them off, kick them off. Let's go ahead and see what we do here. Kick them off. Wheeler, Laine. See, I've already forgotten. Who was my other guy? Short-term memory, guys. Good problem to have in DFS. And Connor. Where'd Connor? There he was. Right there. So I got 4,300 left for a center and a defenseman. So now I can go back here, turn them all on. Probably take off Buffalo. Not real fond of them tonight. And now I'm just looking straight up value. I can use this here to cut the salary down. What I say I needed per guy, per player, about 4,300. So let's cut this down to about 4,500 and see what we've got. Once again, sort all. Give me all the actually we'll go by salary. A little bit easier way to do this. Now we'll start with some of these. Okay, Mike Green's running fairly well. Duquesne, Theodore's running okay. I need another defenseman, right? Theodore's 4.3. So I'm going to find somebody a little bit hotter. Osterley we've already got. You can see where he showed up, though. It's an even cheaper one down here. However you'd pronounce his name, Chekchi or Chi-Chi or whatever. If I scrolled all, sorry guys, the video is starting to drag on, run a little long. I apologize for that. If I start with the salaries, they're still organized good. So if I keep scrolling down here and look for a real super punt, I'm not really going to find one. If I really wanted to reach, I could go Dano if I had somebody that I was targeting a little bit higher. But I really kind of want to stay in the 3 range. LeBlanc, let's see who LeBlanc's paired with. You might want to run a little bit of LeBlanc and Tierney. But I need a defenseman, don't I? Defenseman and a center. So there's the other way to further cut this out. Defenseman, center. Resort by salary. This is just what you have to do. It looks like we're probably going to use a little Mike Green Detroit's favored. Lowry's not bad, but I probably can't use another Winnipeg center. See if it may or may not let me do it, but if I do, that's not a bad way to go. If I click on him again, look at his game log the way we did the first time, last 10 games. 4 block shots, not blocking a lot, but he's firing a puck on net. It's 31. It's not the 40-something that we saw before. 30-something with 7 points isn't terrible. 3.5 points. Look at his game log really quick. 2.5, 3, 8. Got a little upside. 5.5, 7. Not going to kill you. You know, I don't want to see those zeros, but when I'm throwing in Winnipeg and really focused on Winnipeg tonight. So now my defenseman's going to have to come off of a third team, so I've got Winnipeg and Chicago everywhere, and that's what's going to allow me to throw 4,800 really at any of these guys. There's Mike Green right there. And we're done. We'll see if it lets me. There we go. It'll let me take 5 on DraftKings. That's the nuance. It'll let you take 4 on Fanduel. But there you go. That's an easy lineup to run tonight, and you can see sort of how we built that lineup, right? So that's what I want you guys to do, is practice building your lineups. Use Vegas, jump in here to the player lines, jump into the player stats and take a look at who's running hot, who's running cold, and after you've already determined who's in a good spot and who you want to target. Make sure you correlate your lines. You can either run all of the first line and the power play one all at the same, but you're very boomer bust with this type of scoring. If it works, great, you're going to cash easy at night. But if it doesn't work, your night's over. That's what we don't want to do in cash. We want to save those moves for GPPs. In cash, we would rather see some of these guys on the power play one and line them up with somebody else. Like if Lowry's running well, which he is, we can run him with line A, and you get a 1 and a 3 on the scoring lines, and they overlap on the power play one. You can throw in, in cash, I try to keep it to 2 guys per team. Tonight's a shorter slate. We're not going to really have that option, but I try to keep it to 2. So I would run line A and Lowry and be done with Winnipeg. Then I would move over to the secondary offense, which was maybe Chicago, and I would do, Saad and Hartman and be done, or Osterley and Hartman and be done. And then I'd run up to another one that we were talking about maybe in the Islanders or Pittsburgh. And if I could afford it, I'd take, like a Tavares and a Barzal. If I got a utility spot, I can use it. Or maybe I come down here for some value and run Leddy, with somebody like Bailey or something like that. I mean, these are just the things that you're doing. I'm trying to get pieces of all these offenses. I don't know which offense is going to go off. I know which ones Vegas is telling me are likely to. I'm going to try and target those, but I don't really know which ones are going to go off. So all I'm really trying to do is make sure that I spread my net out in cash and I get pieces of everything that goes off, and that's going to raise my floor and make me, a little bit more solid lineup where I can get into those 50-50s and maybe those triple ups, produce a top 30, top 25% lineup that cruises into the money comfortably. However, for GPPs to win the GPP and take the whole thing down, I really have to tighten my focus. I really have to correlate hard, and I need to probably just pick maybe 2 offenses and hit the lines that do the damage, and that would be, like New York Islanders 1 and then Winnipeg 1, and just hope to hell that they each score 6 goals tonight. When they do, I'm probably sitting pretty. So that's a little bit of the nuance, a little bit of the difference from DraftKings to FanDuel. Hopefully you guys got a little bit out of this. Click the like, click the subscribe. If you like this kind of teaching and you like this kind of content, join the DFS Army. Ask me questions inside there. We'll go back and forth and bring you up to speed just like we've done all of our other members that are winning money on a daily basis. Don't forget to use code CHOP, C-H-O-P. Friends don't let friends pay retail. I don't like spending your money for you. I'd rather you save that money and you put it towards your DFS hobby, because after all, that's where we have the fun. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you next week.